Namaste, everyone. Back again to talk about the antidote to fear. And I'm watching all of this unfold and all of this chaos and a lot of suffering, a global pandemic, a lot of rightful fear around our financial situation, potential recession, possibly even depression, and really the collective the collective consciousness around this whole pandemic, around coronavirus. And one thing that I think is, well, when I've been meditating and really contemplating, is what would be of the most value. And I see so many people, and I've offered, many tools of how to alleviate anxiety, of a mantra for protection, of all of these kinds of things, immune boosting broth, and these tools and kind of tricks that we can use to stay afloat in situations like this. But when I've really been meditating deeply on what is most needed, it brings me back to the core of the practice, the core of our spirituality, the core of cultivating consciousness. And this is not a sexy practice. This is not a quick fix. And I really actually don't believe in quick fixes or hacks. What I believe and what I invest in as a teacher and as a student and as a seeker is timeless principles, that all spiritual traditions really come down to some very basic core timeless principles. And so what I want to talk tonight about is the antidote of fear. And the basic truth, the core, noble truth of Buddhism, that suffering exists, that life is not easy, that challenge exists. And I think in our pop spirituality, pop psychology, we really have gotten, and I think we're seeing this with the coronavirus, that it's brought everything to a screeching halt. And so we're seeing that our old paradigm of more is better, faster is best, instant gratification, never-enoughness was faulty, and it no longer serves. It absolutely does not serve our highest good. What does serve our highest good is doubling down on our spiritual practices. What serves our highest good is investing in our core sense of self. And that means asking very difficult questions and coming right up against the sandpaper for our soul, rubbing right up against all those raw, vulnerable edges. What are you most afraid of? So I want to offer tonight for you to take a moment and sit. And we can just, if you wish, you can close your eyes. We can take a breath or two together. You can also just keep your eyes gently open. And I'd love for you to notice on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel right now? 1 being abysmal and 10 being ecstatic. How are you feeling right now? Where would you rate yourself on the weather pattern of your inner landscape? And then the second question, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 of how you're handling the current situation? Your skillfulness in how you're handling this current situation. How have you found yourself being resilient or being resourceful? What's working for you? What's not working for you? And then the last question is, what are you most afraid of? What are you most afraid of in this pandemic and in this crisis? I don't even really like to use those words. Is it financial? Is it health? Is it fear for a loved one that might be vulnerable? Fear for a child? Is it fear for your own death? And now with that fear in your mind's eye, just come into what would be the worst case scenario. Really allow yourself to indulge that for a moment. What would be the absolute worst case scenario? That you die, that a loved one dies, that you go bankrupt. And just observe what might be coming up for you as you engage this possibility. Is there any place that you feel this in your body? Is there any place that maybe an image or a metaphor that arises? Maybe a memory. Maybe an emotion that's stirring. When you're ready, you can gently blink your eyes open if you haven't already. So this is an incredible resource. If you don't have it already, I'm going to read a little bit from one of my favorite books and one of my favorite resources, which is very apt. When Things Fall Apart. Beautiful book by Pema Chodron, incredible Buddhist nun. And the first chapter of When Things Fall Apart is called Intimacy with Fear. The intimacy with fear is the number one quality that liberates us, that cultivates our empowerment. The antidote to fear is to become so intimate with it that we befriend it, we invite it in. No one ever tells us to stop running away from fear. We are very rarely told to move closer, to just be there, to simply become familiar with fear. She says, I once asked the Zen master, Kobun Chino Roshi, how he related to fear. And he said, I agree. But the advice we usually get is to sweeten it up, smooth it over, take a pill, distract ourselves. But by all means, make it go away. We don't need that kind of encouragement because dissociating from fear is what we do naturally. We habitually spin off, freak out when there's even the merest hint of fear. We feel it coming and we check out. It's good to know we do that. Not as a way to beat ourselves up, but as a way to develop unconditional compassion. The most heartbreaking thing of all is how we cheat ourselves of the present moment. Sometimes, however, we are cornered. Everything falls apart, and we run out of options for escape. That would be where we are right now. At times like that, the most profound spiritual truths seem pretty straightforward and ordinary. There's nowhere to hide. We see it as well as anyone else, better than anyone else. Sooner or later, we understand that although we can't make fear look pretty, it will nevertheless introduce us to all the teaching we've ever heard or read. So the next time you encounter fear, consider yourself lucky. This is where the courage comes in. Usually, we think that brave people have no fear. The truth is that they're intimate with fear. The trick is to keep exploring and not bail out, even when we find that something is not what we thought. That's what we're going to discover again and again and again. Nothing is what we thought. Compassion, not what we thought. Emptiness is not what we thought. Neither is mindfulness or fear. These are words that point to what life really is when things fall apart, and let ourselves be nailed to the present moment. So I want to offer you this teaching tonight, and it's not a tool and it's not a takeaway practice, although I like to offer those too, but I really feel like the most crucial, important, fundamental, beneficial things that we can study and learn are timeless principles. This principle of being nailed to the present moment. This principle of staying so awake and clear, noticing with such subtlety, and we have such an opportunity right now because there's so much spaciousness. Time is in a warp field. We're not running around all over the place. We are forced to sit still and be with ourselves, our fears, our anxieties, our frustrations, our insecurities. How does the fear arise for you when you become intimate with your fear? What are your tendencies? I'd love to hear in the comments below. What is your tendency to dissociate from fear? Do you go to Instagram? Do you go to Netflix? Do you go to the refrigerator? Do you have a glass of wine? How do you dissociate from your fear? One of the addictions we have in our culture is to news. And unfortunately, the news is sensationalized because the whole function of news is to get you to keep watching so that you can feed the advertisers. So they want to keep us on these channels as long as possible. And it's crucial that we cultivate the viveka, the discernment, to look differently, to ask different questions. So get your news, of course, from reliable sources, but keep it to a minimum because that's not the truth of the situation. In Chinese, the expression for crisis is two symbols. It's two characters. The first character is danger. The second character is opportunity. Where danger meets opportunity is crisis. And so when you say that word and you hear that word in the ethos, in the lexicon right now, I invite you to hold both the union of that opposite. Because the only part of crisis that we're being sold right now is danger, 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 danger of an economic explosion or implosion, danger of death, danger of millions of people being sick and dying, danger of not enough medical supplies, danger of instability in our government, whatever, version of it is that it keeps being spouted out, danger. But nobody is selling you the bill of goods of opportunity. Nobody is talking about the opportunity that lies within the crisis. And so I invite you in that fear to hold both the danger and the opportunity. What is the opportunity in your life right now? What is the opportunity for awakening? What is the opportunity for us as a collective as we slow down and watch what happens to our planet when everything comes to a halt? What is the opportunity for feeling this incredible global connectedness like we never have before? What is the opportunity when humanity innovates together? What is the opportunity for you to innovate in your own career, in your own work, and really feel into where you're called, what lights you up, where you want to be in service? What is the opportunity of awakening to health and wellness on a whole other level? So holding your intimacy with fear and the opportunity at hand, the opportunity to ask and feel into the depths of life, the depths of self, the raw edges, the rough edges, the vulnerability. And what's the worst case scenario? And can you live with that? Can you live through that? Even if it's death, even if it's death. We don't truly liberate ourselves until we contemplate and meditate on death. So I invite you into this inquiry, not as some morose, intense, dark meditation, but in fact, as the opportunity of awakening to realize how fleeting life is and how precious it is, and to wake up to what you want to do with your life, to how you want to spend your time, to how you want to relate to your children and to your partner and to your loved ones and to yourself. That's the opportunity at hand when we face the danger of crisis and the danger of death. The opportunity is awakening. The opportunity is to cultivate deeply these qualities that once installed in your being will be the resilience, they will be the empowerment, that you are liberated from needing to rely on outside stimuli or validation or whatever it might be, because you're so deeply rooted in your own being and in your own spiritual connection and awake, nailed to the present moment. After all, we know this is all we have, is the present moment. And any thought that we had control in the first place is a total illusion. And we're being forced to see that reflection right now. We never had control in the first place. Your money was never that safe in the first place. Your health and life was always at risk in the first place. Waking up to the preciousness and to gratitude. So there's a lot packed in there, but the roots of it are the intimacy with fear and the opportunity to awaken in the midst of crisis. Not a hack, not a tip, not a tool, just some abiding, timeless principles. Please leave a comment. Let me know how this lands for you, what is working for you right now. And please leave a comment. What is your approach when fear arises? And just become intimate with that. And let's share below both what doesn't work when you dissociate from fear or try to, bypass it, but also what does work and where you have shown courage and where you have shown fortitude. So leave that in the comments below. And I'm sending you all so much love. And I'm going to be going live every Sunday morning right here on Facebook and on Instagram. Every Sunday morning, 9 a.m., Sunday sadhana. This is going to be a deepening of our spirituality, meditation, mantra, mudra, not so much an asana practice, but really a deepening of coming together in meditation and prayer and mantra and mudra, these tools that have really solidified within me. So I'm really happy to offer these live on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you Sunday mornings. I'm also going to begin offering Wednesday night classes. So make sure to jump over to the email list so you can get notified of that. But I'll be here live on Sunday mornings. All right, sending you so much love. Namaste.